George on, haven't we?
Yeah, we've got George straight on.
Are we going to play a little advert first, Rick? Or not? No, he's shaking his head there. I can see him. No, let's bring George on. Hey, George. Is he there? He's not there.
He's in there.
He's muted. He just
Ricky, maybe we should play an advert.
Hello, ladies. Can you hear me all right?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you, George.
Sorry, I had it on mute.
That's all right.
I'm such an amateur at this stuff. I'm not getting used to it.
That's okay.
Yeah, how you all doing though, yeah?
Have you got camera?
Oh, yeah, hang on. Oh.
Sorry.
Is that, can you see me now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
perfect, George.
I did it.
Lou's just got to nip to the loo a second.
Oh, that's all right. On my go.
Thank you for coming on, though, George. It's great to see you again. Great to have you on.
Yeah, no problems. You know, I'll always talk and stick up for the children. You know me long enough now. You can have me on these podcasts as many times as you want. The only thing is I do get a bit nervous, as you know, but, you know, it's not about all that. It's just about, I never forget why I'm doing this,
Exactly.
you know, but all you ladies, you know, you're fantastic. I have to say it every single time. You really do put the men to shame, because it's still like, where are the men? You know, but there are more and more men.
Oh, definitely, George. There are more men coming around finally, but you know, there just should be a big, massive surge of all of them then, you know, but you know that anyway. I gotta be honest, I didn't, because I know we're going to be touching on the porn industry, because I know you've been looking into this, George, and you've been doing your own research and whatever, and you did send me a few things over, and I watched about 10 minutes, and then I got distracted, and then I just had one thing after another to do. So I know that you've actually got some bits and pieces that you want to talk about. So do you want to touch on what you've been looking at? What, like one of the YouTube videos that you sent me the other day?
Yeah, so a couple of months ago, like Lou tagged me into something and tagged you. I did wanted to talk more about the brain, but not today. I'm going to do it on the next one, because she tagged me in Dr. William Struther, and I wanted to know more about the brain and how porn hijacks the brain, because it was really technical, and I made my notes, but I need to spend more time. Like I got my notes now, because I've got to have notes, otherwise I just jumble everything up, right?
No, that's all right, George. I do the same, and you know, we can have a chat about that, because this the brain part of it is really important.
It is. It's like the doctor was just talking about different parts of the brain that even I didn't hear about, and I'm, as you know, I'm fascinated by the brain, and I want to expose how this, you know, hijacks the brain, because it just goes deeper, you know, because we still got people on Facebook in the truth movement are still advocating porn, right? And watching porn and saying that it's all right and it reduces rape and all that, and it is nonsense, right? We know it's nonsense, but I want to challenge them in a nice way. If they keep saying that it doesn't affect, it's not a negative effect on them, well then you've got to know all of these different parts of the brain to make that decision, and they don't, because there's so many different aspects of the brain that it hijacks, and it's like, wow. You know, it's fascinating, but it does put you it really changes your mood when you look into these dark things, you know. But I've gone in a slight different angle on it today, not so much on the child pornography, but I'm going to talk a little bit about child trafficking, because they are interrelated, you know, they go hand in hand.
You're absolutely right. They do indeed go hand in hand. Porn is the biggest driver of child trafficking.
It is, and it's massive, right? You know, people don't realise how big this is, and I just hope that I get to go through all the bits that I researched today. So I don't know if I mentioned Laurie Handrahan last time, because it was Judith Reisman who mentioned her, right? So I don't think I did mention her, but so she mentioned her in the videos, and I did the research, and she's a former university professor, right? So she has always been in like women's rights and children's rights for Central Asia, Mongolia, Middle East area, right? So whilst I was researching, I kind of remembered who she was. I don't know if anyone remembers this, but she was the one that went over Syria when we all had the war with Syria and the false flags, she
Yeah.
was the one that was going over there and finding out what was really going on. But because of all that nonsense that the Western media created, right, I didn't know it was the same person, but I think it is the same person. But she does a lot of exposing on child trafficking, and her personal story is horrific. Like, just when you think it doesn't get worse, it really, really does. And I had to stop researching for a little bit after listening to her story because it was that bad, right? So you only watched 10 minutes of it then, like you did.
Yeah, I only caught the beginning part of it.
No, that's all right. I'll go into it because it is another aspect. I've gone down a slight different avenue, but I think it's still equally important.
Oh yeah.
So right. So as I say, the child trafficking and the child pornography, they go hand in hand, right? And at the time of her research, she had like a dirty list of professors and law enforcement, right, who were arrested and convicted. Hello, you all right?
Sorry, I had to get up through to get in.
That's all right. I thought everyone left the room and it was.
I needed tea. Sorry.
We can still hear you. Sorry, love.
I'm on my own now. That's all right. Yeah, no. So she had a dirty little list. We're just talking about Laurie Handrahan. She had a dirty little list of professors and law enforcement who were arrested and convicted for trading in porn. And I just want to make it clear, right? Child pornography is child rape. That's it. That's abundantly clear, right? So I'm going to expose a name. I don't know if any of you ladies have heard of him, Benjamin Levin, right? So he's an ex-deputy education minister, right, who was on that list, right, and he was sentenced for 3 years for child porn related offences, like 3 years, right? I'll give a few examples because the other thing I wanted to talk about is the jail times, because it's just ridiculous how long they get. And I checked him out, right, and he was part of the sex ed curriculum in Ontario. So he raped children, right? So again, how do these paedophiles find work that are associated with children? All the time it happens, right? It's like they're put there deliberately, and of course they are, right? And not only that, I googled him, and I can't actually believe I'm saying these words, but he spent 3 months of his sentence in jail before being paroled, right? Because a lot of them just don't finish their sentence, do they? You know, it is horrible, right? Because I'm generally quite a balanced person at home, you know, but the more I look into this, I'm really beginning to lose my patience, because this is ridiculous. These aren't one-off, you know. This happens all the time, you know. So Dr. Laurie Handrahan, she's been exposing child trafficking in the US government, and the IRS is involved in it, right? Child trafficking and porn are like the fastest growing crimes in America, right? It's just $1 billion industry, right? And it's laundered in black money, right? So the IRS's accountability of billions of dollars, right, that are going through, right, these really horrific industries, right? So years ago, she had at the time her daughter was 6 years old, right, and she didn't see her for I think a year and a half, and she was fighting for custody of her daughter, but had joint custody, right, and the father, right, the father of the child was a criminal as well. So because he was not legal in America, he was from Yugoslavia or something like that, right? So they stopped her seeing her daughter, right? And the judge still awarded him and his lawyer and gave him full custody to the father. It gets worse, right? So the father gave her absolute hell, right? The ex-wife, right? So the reason why he got full custody of the kid is because that judge and the lawyer were involved in trading kids, and Laurie found evidence on her daughter that she was repeatedly raped, right? There's evidence by the specialist doctors, right? I'm just going to mention a name here because I think exposing these people, it's just got to be done. So Judge Moksovitz, right? And just shame on all these people involved, because I'm really losing my patience with all of this. I'm not going to swear, don't worry, but so yeah, so all the people involved, and Michael Laxman was the lawyer, right, and said there was no evidence of sexual abuse to that child, and gave full custody to that father, right, and waved away any deportation crimes, right. So all swept under the carpet, right? So the DOJ protecting these kinds of people, they were all into child trafficking, right, in the state of Maine, right, in America, right? Those specialist doctors said they'd never seen such sexual abuse on a child like this before. It was that severe, right? So this is why I wanted to talk about it, because my heart bleeds for that kid. She's just suffered for nothing, you know. And at that time, there was like a list of like 170 names, right, of police, clergy, lawyers, politicians, judges that the Maine state police were withholding, right? So obviously child protection and the police are supposed to get involved and help these situations and protecting the children, right? Well, they're certainly involved, but not in the right way, right?
Them, yeah.
Yeah. So the police are involved directly in child porn industry, and child protection are involved in the trafficking of those children for that industry, right? They're not helping, right? It's not just shutting down. They don't just shut down investigations and brush it under the carpet.
Exactly.
They are directly involved in the paedophilia. I've lost count of how many cover-ups in the UK, right? And then I have spoken to voters directly, and they know this is happening, but they'll continue to vote. But I don't think they'll get the significance of how big this is, you know. But we know these organisations were created specifically for child abuse, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I'm not, you know, I'm making it abundantly clear with all of this. There's no grey areas in this kind of thing, right? So they're trying to like they say that they're resolving them, but they're actually creating like these things, like Childline, like you
we've been struggling.
said, like it's there to traffic children, isn't it? At the end of the
definitely.
day,
Esther and Jimmy.
But it's a state-run paedophile ring.
Disgustingly.
We've also got the NSPCC Suffolk, who we did a massive thing on, because the lady who was the chair of NSPC Suffolk, let me give you her name. It was and I put a post up on Facebook about it, and I called the NSPCC in Suffolk, and I asked them, and I was putting a report of children in danger. And they got the pen, they were going to take the notes. And I said, from the NSPCC, you know, Suffolk, you're putting all these children in danger. And her name was Claire Hazel Eveagh, Eveagh. And she was the president of the National NSPCC up for West Sussex. Yeah. And she was on Epstein's plane over 26 times. Now, when I was presenting NSPCC, when we were at the column, you know, we used to look into all of these children's homes and who's the directors, who's behind them, who's been linked to them. And it was just the web, it's so dark, it's set up for a reason. As we said, Childline was set up for a reason, for Esther Ranson. I mean, there's stories going on about John Major and the Edwina Curry thing. That was not a true story, it was to cover up something else. I don't want to be shot or anything, so I can't say too much, but I have it has been publicised on various places. You know, that was all a con about the whole affair. It's embedded deep, it's disgusting, it's covered up. No one will talk about it, George. It is the elephant in the room.
You know, isn't it just? It really is, because like you say, who do we go to?
Exactly.
You know, like we have to take it upon ourselves.
But then you get the mainstream media trashing the actual people who are trying to fight it.
Yeah, I know.
You know, Robert Greene, Holly Gregg, George. Do you remember that case?
I remember vaguely. It was a few. I've researched it a few years ago, and they tried to discredit that as well. You know, I remember researching that, but yeah, go on. I vaguely remember it.
Yeah, the Holly Gregg's a little Down syndrome girl, and a gentleman called Robert Greene went out campaigning, and he even stood as for a member of Parliament for some sort of part of Aberdeen, and he got sent to prison for sending out leaflets and naming the Scottish hierarchy. The UK column, I know there was a D notice or something put on them that they weren't allowed to talk about. And Robert Greene went to prison, and that same day, I think an oil executive who was caught with child porn. I mean, that's so wrong. It's child, as you say, child rape. There's no such thing as child porn.
Exactly.
You know, they're not taking any. So he got let off with community service. So the man who's out there handing out leaflets, trying to expose it. And then the other thing you get with it is trolls. You know, the children, the second you start on the subject of the child abuse, it's had it for 10 years, it's horrendous. And now you get the silencing where you're trying to expose it, you get taken down.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult. And how's your censorship going, George?
Well, on Facebook, it's hit and miss. You know, if I write something about LGBT, then I do get a lot of support from other people. But if I write something about the sentences that these people get, these pedophiles get, it just either falls on deaf ears, or I'm just highly sensitive, because that is a massive. I could expose those jail sentences all day, every day. There's so much of it, right? Of how short that their sentences, and they don't finish it off. Last year, they never do they? And there was a politician called something Khan last year. He raped a 15-year-old boy, and he got 18 months for messing up that child's life for the rest of his life. Right? He won't do 18 months. Be serious.
You probably do less than 9 for that, you know, and you get more. It's just, you know, I was saying this to someone the other day.
There's no worse a crime.
No,
there's nothing worse.
There is nothing worse than that. And to see them, some of them just get like a smack on the wrist, a fine, and a bit of community service.
Well, they do. There was one actually the other day, a 17-year-old raped a 13-year-old. Right, and he got community service for that. I'm sorry, I know your brain don't develop until your mid-20s. You still know what you're doing.
Yeah, you still know right from wrong. The
yes.
basic morals of things like that, you know it's wrong.
Yeah.
You know?
And you need to put these people away.
Yeah. And it's not happening, and that's because they fill in the prisons with victims, mostly people, kids that have been abused, petty theft, and maybe going in for a bit of cannabis growing or something like that, and then a paedophile doesn't get anything.
We're going to talk to Dave at Stop Hate. Look, the January the 6th, okay, they've let the QAnon shaman out, but there's still people in January the 6th when we've got rapists, child abusers.
Yeah.
We could go down. We can later, the Adrena thing.
Yeah.
There are people who do, this is another, the depths of the whole Clinton and the fast food gate story, which everyone was being told, which they were saying was a hoax, which it wasn't a hoax.
Definitely not a hoax.
It's happening. You've had that Sound of Freedom movie that they couldn't get. I think it was ready to go in 2020. Or even before that, with Jim Caviezel, looking at Operation Railroad, where they're rescuing the kids from these tunnels, and the kids are being bred down in these tunnels and over there for trafficking. It's horrific.
It's like a whole
but
other
no one will
world
talk
that
about
we didn't
it.
know about, until
we have to talk about it though. Don't you find if we stay silent, we're complicit?
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree. I mean, the thing is, I don't know if I said this last time, that the whole Kinsey syndrome, I think I watched it first. A friend sent it to me about 5 years ago, and I didn't really even then, because I was just waking up 6 years ago. even then I didn't understand the significance of that. I didn't. It was too much. But then once you started to talk about it, Catherine, on your videos, I really started getting into it and I think I need to do something. I need to support you ladies. I'll put my hands up high. I don't think I've done enough. I'm admitting I don't think I've done enough, but at least I'm being a voice. Yeah. But you ladies, I have to take my hats off to you ladies, because people don't want to talk about it because, one, they don't know the significance of it, right? And secondly, they are too scared to talk about it. There are other truthers that are too scared to talk about it. The fathers are you know me well enough now. If I had children, right, and you said earlier, where are the fathers? They should be outside the schools. I would make sure I do not shut my mouth. Everybody would hear, but I'm not allowed in these schools. And it really annoys me because I don't have kids. Now, if that's not discrimination, I don't know what is. I want to know what their lesson content is. Why would you hide it if it's nothing bad going on?
Exactly. If this was sex education, was all this amazing stuff, why are they not screaming it from the rooftops? Why are they hiding it? Why are they not giving parents content and saying, you know, they don't want to breach confidentiality laws and stuff with the third party organisation that they brought in,
God,
like
so desperate,
who have been done for child porn and paedophilia even. Do you know what I mean? And these people in these organisations, you know, like we were saying about the NSPCC, but even now, the ones that are having you know, a big influence on the schools and stuff, like Mermaids and Stonewall and Brooke and Gender and Jigsaw, and these places, none of them are. They're all dodgy. None of them are, you know, are regulated in any way, and they're just coming in and telling it, you know,
and they're so well funded. They get all this
the
government funding that these people are doing, are receiving. You know, where's the people with certain values? We won't even touch on Christian values or whatever. We'll leave the whole religion. Where with human values, the love of children,
morals.
Where is the books that are going in on what family should be? You know, there are single parents, don't be wrong, but you know, babies are made with a man and a woman. You know, be proud that you're straight. When you know what people do behind closed doors, it's, you know, it's their story. That two consenting adults, whatever. But when you start bringing the children in,
well, this is it. I mean, we've said from day one, we have nothing against gays or lesbians or bisexual. I have more respect for the gays, lesbians, even the drags, who have nothing to do with the LGBTQ movement, right?
They know.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. Thankfully, and you've got your likes of gays against groomers and even trans against groomers. Because you had Scott Nugent earlier was in London, wasn't he?
We're going to play that.
We'll play it later. He was up in London at a drag event, and you know, even like I say, they're speaking out and they get called. So he was probably shouted and screamed at and called a transphobe and whatever else, even though Scott is obviously a trans man. But he was the one who was in, if you didn't know, George, he's the one that was in What Is a Woman? You know, with Matt Walsh, and he's talking to that's Scott Nugent. So he's the one speaking out, basically, that, look, he knows he's not going to live to see his grandchildren. He's speaking out of the dangers and what he has to go through every single day. Yeah. And he was hooked in at age 42. So as a confused 42-year-old, what chance does a confused 12-year-old have?
I know. I don't wrap my head around it as an adult. I don't know how to. And how does a child, you know, it's on all angles, it's just such a mess. I wouldn't even know where to start to begin to
but they're
start
so well
this
funded,
mess
so
up.
we need there isn't. Where's the funding to bring into
I know, there's
the
got
schools
to be
that we want
people,
to
loaded people who are against
you know, why can't we get this kind of a movement going? Why does it take we've got a little podcast, you know, we're having to sit here, you know, off our own, just doing it all ourselves, you know, do studio in someone's flat that they've donated so that we can do this, you know, which it should be on these huge platforms, you know, 12, you know, we're into coming up to hour 10 of broadcasting now.
We have actually had some more money, and we should say
we'll do in a sec.
More hundred in as well.
So we do really appreciate, and we will run down the donations. But again, we're coming up to that time of year, as we said earlier. We're going to have, you know, you go to get your cash is king out, the cash machine, and you're going to be confronted with the rainbow flag. As I
Yeah,
said
you can't get away
earlier,
from it.
that they're focusing on your animals now. They think it's important that cats know that Dreamies support LGBT community. So I mean, it's
is
never gonna
everywhere you
end.
turn,
I've
isn't
walked
it?
out of shops when I've started hearing anything, one about Ukraine and the other thing when they over the tannoy, and then the pride thing. I've just got up and walked out, and I've called Sainsbury's I don't know how many times about the gay flag. Barratt Homes are on it. They're all onto it. It's like they have to do it.
It's very well. It's a
Diversity,
very
I suppose,
cult-like.
isn't it?
Yeah, everyone wants to be progressive, and well, some of them are just wrong uns anyway, and they know where this is headed. Then you've got the ones who are too scared to say anything. Then you've got the ones who think they're being really progressive and diverse. And then you've got the big money interest, which is the biggest one.
But there's
obviously.
nothing to support getting this education out of schools. They're pushing the money, pumping the money in,
To the
and
other
pumping
side.
the education in. So, like, what are we going to do? We can't just do it. Us team of us five and all the mums of Public Child Protection Wales. So, what do we do, guys?
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, the worst thing about it is they want us arguing amongst ourselves, and
Yes.
that's exactly what's happening, right? It's such a divide. I will go back in a minute a bit more about the paedophile rings here, but it's such a divide. They've put lesbians, gays, bisexuals, all of this, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. If I've got this wrong, I don't think there's such things as gay rights or lesbian rights or bisexual rights. Isn't it just human rights? If you want to be gay, then be gay. Do I get heterosexual rights? Is there such a thing?
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? I'm
Yeah.
not trying to be funny about it.
No.
It's human rights. If you want to be gay, be gay. If you want to be lesbian, be gay, right? And whatever you want to do. It's such a massive divide. You're humans. It doesn't matter. It's human rights at the end of the day. And it's got us fighting against just at all angles it's coming at.
Which was the agenda from years ago.
Yeah, that was the intention, wasn't it? It's worked a treat.
It was. I mean, do you see what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be offensive, but is it?
No, but actually, ironically, you say that it is, when you think of it from our point of view, from Public Child Protection Wales's point of view, it is the only campaign that has managed to unite people of different faith, different creed, different colour,
yeah, that's true.
Different countries as well.
You know,
Yeah.
and that's what, based on the one thing, the safety of the children, that common sense, one thing that's, you know, and that's actually that's really good, because I don't think that's been achieved. And it's like Kim says, the mainstream media can't come to one of our rallies, because when they point a camera in someone's face, they don't know if they're talking to a lesbian or a Christian. Do you know what I mean? Because it's such a blended group. I'm not going to say diverse, because they've
their power word.
That, and it's one of their buzzwords. With such a blended group that they can force it down the narrative they want to force it down. So that's why they don't touch us. It's easier for them not to say anything than to say anything, you know?
Well, it's caused such a mess, you know. I wouldn't even know where to begin. I think, you know, people just turning a blind eye. Like, you still get the voters that don't want to know about this. They don't want to know about this sex education. They don't want to know how big, like, there are probably so many state-run paedophile rings, right? It's not just the one that I was talking about, state of Maine, right? I remember a while ago, a few years ago, Arizona, something about the care system. I don't know if you heard about that one. Foster parents were ex-paedophiles. Did you? I can't exactly remember.
It does ring a bell. We've done so much because we, you know, that's all we've kind of focused on for the last 10 years is looking at the institutionalised child abuse and paedophile rings. So tell us, George.
Well, I mean, with this one, it's the state-run paedophile, and there's another one that Laurie mentioned, right? Nick Bryan. I'm sure you ladies would have heard of this one. Nebraska Boys Town. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, it's connected. I haven't looked into that one yet, but I will do. But you know, she also mentioned the Franklin scandal. I remember that a few years ago.
The scandal was huge.
The story of brokers and child abuse, another cover-up, and the funding of child sex trafficking rings. This is what I'm saying. this thing is funded. You know, these things are funded, and the head of the child protection was a key trafficker in the state of Maine, right? How does?
Have to have
Well, it's like,
they
it's
have
like
to.
some of the Welsh children's home, and that all came out. You had Bryn Allen and Bryn Estyn, didn't you? And then you had the Kincora Boys Home. And I know that Kaz, she was incredible research, and she was at Bryn Allen, and the connections there with children's charities, and the links. The guy had been already convicted of paedophilia, and he was now running this care home.
Yeah.
You know, it's been going back. You know, look at the stories of the Kincora Boys Home. It was absolutely horrific.
Yeah.
And then the Bryn Aston, the Bryn Allen stories as well.
That, it happens all over when we think about it. It's so prevalent, literally in every town. And
people who try and expose it, they get
so much.
They get, you know, the police after them. It's tragic.
Well, there's so much. We're literally drowning in this information. I can't believe it's like such a long list of so much corruption when it comes to child sex rape. You know, the fact that we have to keep. What the good thing about it is we'll keep talking about it until those voters listen.
Yeah.
You know, I'm very I've calmed down the last few years. I've really balanced my brain, but the only thing that really winds me up is the voters. It's really their behaviour. I want to be abundantly clear. Their behaviour is disgusting. Right, I have to say it because they're ignoring this. I've shown the evidence to like a family friend, and you just wouldn't look at it. Right, people don't want to look at it, and their behaviour. This is why it carries on.
Yeah, exactly. That's all we've been trying to say. You stay silent. You're complicit.
Yes, and this is it. But they don't want that responsibility. It's that big R word, responsibility. They want somebody else to sort it out, right? And they think the police. They just don't get it. They think the police and the child protection are going to sort these things out. They have no idea if it's not just brushing under the carpet. They are directly involved. There are paedophiles in police, like right now.
It's coming out even more and more, isn't it?
Absolutely, in the mainstream.
But it's always been there, though. It has always been there.
It's just that it's never been revealed to us so much as it's now. You know, it's being revealed to us a lot more, and it is what it is, like having a completely different world. It's always been here, and it's been honestly. What a mess.
Paul's just been restricted.
Well, this is what I'm saying. These
just had Facebook taken down for sharing our content.
This is the thing. Like these people are specifically put there in these positions of jobs, right? So like this one guy did a lot of training around the country, right? And Holland, which is a bit dodgy anyway, because it's the heart of paedophilia, really, isn't it? Right, but he falsified himself by saying that he worked for these organisations like Boys Towns in Nebraska, right? And he didn't actually work for those organisations, but he had links to the child trafficking, so he was lying, right? But he was getting kids from these places. He was procuring these kids, and this is how it's done. This is how it's done. You know, again, you know.
And you think how many they're feeding through the care system now as well.
Yeah, and that's why it was all set up. The care system was. I finally get it. A few years ago, I was like, I wonder how the care systems are involved, and the court systems, and how they destroy
family courts are the worst.
Yeah. And it's like they were created. This whole world was created for paedophilia. That is it. I'm going to be blunt about it because all these organisations are just a front. Right, to say we're looking after you, lot.
Yeah, and it's absolute nonsense. Well, nonsense.
We're looking after the child protection. It wasn't. You do get good eggs. Yeah, exactly. But you do get good eggs in child protection. There are people obviously being paid, and there are people that are ignoring it, like in child protection and all this. But you do get good eggs, and those are the ones that they make their lives hell. John Woodger, you know, another guy that he was exposing. I don't know if he was completely genuine or not. There was a lot of backlash over the years about John Woodger, but I listened to his story. It sounded genuine to me. He did expose.
He's been on my show. It's the first show he broke. I was, very close, and he's 100% legitimate. I don't, he totally is. He was at all the events. He blew the whistle. He came onto our show and blew the whistle. What he's seen and what him and his family have gone through is horrific.
It is
but
horrific.
we won't talk because it's not right. I don't know where, he's a good man and he's done all he can for the children. And the same with Bill Maloney. I mean, what they did to Bill Maloney, trying to expose it. And Bill Maloney was brought up within the institutions.
Well, he was. I know he was. He had sisters as well involved.
Yeah, it's horrific.
Yeah, people don't even know that.
They don't know.
It is horrific. Whether they're genuine or not,
judge, and they don't
know.
They don't
these
know
things,
backgrounds and stories.
Yeah. People are too quick to call like, he's a shield and he's a shield. You know what? This stuff still happens. This stuff is still happening, right? There's still child abuse. There's still paedophilia. It's still happening, right? And also what I want to make clear is, right, to run a successful paedophile ring, right, you do need the police involved. You need child protection involved. You need social workers involved. You need the
They
feds.
just get found out otherwise.
All
and
of them.
people don't like to admit this, but this is the fact. You are right, George. These are the facts of the matter, and all of these people are involved at some level. I don't get out at the lower levels. They don't get told a lot. Do you know what I mean? Because they're just sort of pushing the pedals and the yes men and whatever. And then as you go deeper into that organisation, that's where all the deceit is. It's awful. It really is. But that's the fact.
That's the reality that we live in, right? Judges are involved.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the media are involved. Obviously, politicians are involved, right? Orphanages are involved. Of course, the Clintons. You need Clintons involved with this, right? And all the way up to taxi drivers. All the way up to the taxi drivers. And they know they're getting paid. We can't be sitting there thinking they're all innocent. They're taking all these kids out of the care.
Yeah,
exactly. You've got Uber now as well, haven't you? The Uber things where
dropping them off somewhere. They're involved.
Taxi drivers have been on the streets doing their knowledge and stuff for years. They've got, now you've got all these Uber things turning up where it could be anyone coming to pick you up. Not that I've ever used an Uber because I don't get them in Devon. I haven't got them in Devon, but
I never used an Uber in my life. But you can see how easy it is now for anyone to do whatever they want and sort of be anonymous and be protected, actually, because this is one of the things that Alex Thompson said it, not on this show but on the last one. He said it doesn't matter within paedophilia, whether you're the janitor or the chief exec of that company that you're cleaning. If you're both into paedophilia, there's no higher. You're all gonna support each other.
Yeah.
So the chief exec will support the cleaner if they're in that same ring. Do you know what I mean? So that's where it's. It happens way
we have to
too
talk
much.
about it. That's the importance of talking about it, because to talk about it,
you bring it to the surface then, don't you? And we have to do more about, more people are going to be really when they realise this is actually the truth and it's not a conspiracy theory. They're going to be mortified, just like we were when we had to go into it and look at it and see it for what it was. It's absolutely soul destroying, but if we don't talk about it, we are complicit, and this carries on. Not only does it carry on, it gets worse because it's consistently got worse through time. It's prevalent. It's always been here, but it's increased massively because, ironically enough, is the increase in pornography.
Oh, absolutely, and it has increased, but there's more awareness of it now. But also, the problem is the whistleblowers, right? Because I think we touched upon it before, that the whistleblowers in these organisations, right, they'll either commit suicide or they go missing. Like there was one here, it was an account. It was this guy's name was Rod Hyman, right? He was a whistleblower, right? He was an accountant for state legislators, right? He knew about all these crimes, right, and what was going on, and the money laundering, right? And he had a meeting with like the Attorney General, and he was put under police state protection, right? And he went missing. This is what happens.
Yeah.
You get one good egg, You know,
and then it stops other good eggs then, because they realise
they're scared.
It puts them off, yeah.
or their family has been threatened, or one of their family members killed, because this is the reality
I've got
of it.
no problem
And
killing
then it
them all.
stops them, and they just like, they either got to get out of that situation, keep their head down, and it's like, how do you do that knowing? Do you know what I mean? So they've really got them stuck. They've got it all.
They've got it covered on all angles. Yeah, they've got it covered on all angles. And I remember the Franklin cover up, right? There was one, I think it was one woman that come forward, and they falsified her claims, and she got jailed for like 25 years. That's what's happening there. Is the system is saying, don't come forward.
Yeah.
We're going to punish you.
Look what'll happen. You'll be in prison for 25 years, never see your family again.
And then you got paedophiles going away for 18 months.
It's just nuts.
Right. And then this is what I'm constantly on about the voters. How can they not notice this? How can they be okay with this? They've got children, right? If they come out of prison, right, that means they've done their time, supposedly, right? And what happens if they want to be a babysitter? Do you want them to babysit your kids? If you feel uncomfortable with it, then they haven't done enough time. Even if somebody's gone away for 20 years, which they do go away for 20 years, you still wouldn't want that man babysitting your child.
No, because I don't think you can, it's a fine line between rehabilitation from it. But at the same time, we know how it can happen as well, because, we're not born evil. So, there's a process that someone goes through in life, many different things. But the pornography thing is a real issue. I wish we're at end of time now as well, but I wish we had spoke a bit more about the thingy. Although that was an amazing show, actually, George, and I'm interested to hear a bit more about. What was her name? Was it Laura?
Laurie Handrahan.
That's it. I will go back and read.
Yeah, we'll have a look at that
because obviously it is relevant. It's child trafficking.
There is, if people want to hear more about what George was doing on the porn stuff, it is on our Rumble channel. We the section from the last podcast-athon. You can go down and you will find it.
Oh yeah.
I think it was early hours of the morning. So we have done stuff and talked with George, and we will have you back on Liberty Tactics, George, because this is a subject that is very difficult, but
it's constant.
It needs constant
revisiting at the time,
because porn is at the root of all this. Children are having access to porn, and personally, it needs to be banned.
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. I can argue this with anyone, and I will.
And she will. She really will. George Sandell, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
No worries.
It's a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and just ask me anytime. I'll come on your other podcast, and it's no problem for me. I'll always do. I don't do as much as I used to, because it is hard. It is really hard to do this.
Yes.
I don't have any support in my end.
You do a lot more than most. Actually, you'll at least stand there and talk about it, which is quite brave from a man's point of view.
Maybe you can just give a plug on why donating to this. Supporting these parents and donating to this campaign is so important.
It's just like it's the hardest battle, right? It's the biggest battle that we'll ever have, right? We need to continue the fight. Please donate. I'm happy to put money in all the time. I've done it a few times, but we have to continue fighting, because it's not really about winning, it's about exposure. It'd be great if we win. We know how corrupt these courts are, right? But it's about exposure, and the more we keep fighting, the more we keep exposing it. And you ladies need to support, and I want to support you whenever I can do, especially all of you, just so brave, and I've got so much respect for you. It's unreal. I know we all in the truth movement have arguments and all that, but when it comes to children, we are uniting, and that's the main thing. I've never forgot why I do this. It's the children. They are the light, and they are the love and the future for the whole of this. And at the moment, they're just being destroyed. I can't sit back and do nothing about it.
Thank you so much, George. It is true.
And it's hard to, it's a difficult subject to always be talking about. But it's got to be done, and it can zap the energy and the life out of you sometimes. You have to go away and have a bit of a break. I did for a couple of years. I had to just break off from it because, and now you can understand people who are dealing with it, exposing it all the time. They're under such heavy attack all the time. And they're also, a lot of them are actual survivors of abuse as well.
Yeah.
So, it's
It is the most important thing.
It's the only thing.
Without a doubt. And I know that you share our views on that, George, and you do expose stuff every day, you know, on Facebook. You are a real legend, and I really, really thank you again for coming on. And if you do want to see the last the last podcast-athon where we did speak more on the pornography, then as Lou says, go to Liberty Tactics and you'll find it on there with George. So enjoy the rest of your evening, George.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, you two. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care. Take care.
So here we are. We are now in hour 10 of broadcasting. We're still awake.
Easy peasy.
We're still going. We still have our voices. We are going to have a little break. Yeah. We have a fantastic music, as it's Saturday night. We've got a little interview coming up with the wonderful DJ Slipmat, who's a very dear friend. And he also donated a music set for us. And we're going to play that out as well. All leading up to 11 o'clock, where we'll be crossing over to America, and one of my favourite Americans, Mr. Dave Sumrall from Stop Hate, who's fighting for January the 6th. He's fighting for the children. He's fantastic. So he's going to be coming up then. If you want the music set, you would like us to send you a copy. We have the permission of Slipmat to do this. If you would like to donate £10 to the cause, email info@libertytactics.co.uk. We will send you a copy of this special mix that Slipmat sent over to me yesterday. So libertytactics.co.uk, publicchildprotectionwales.org, and the fundraiser is under every single video for this. We want to say a quick thank you to a few people, because our fundraiser for now is up to 8,880. So Kat, what have we raised today?
2,900.
2,900 today.
That's
it
great.
Would be lovely if we could get it up to
£3,000.
I would like to get it up to £10,000 by midnight if we could. I did say 6 o'clock this evening earlier on, but that hasn't happened.
That would be
but it would be lovely if we could get a couple more £100. No, more than that. A couple of grand, just over £1,000 before midnight.
20 grand will do.
Yeah,
just that.
We are going to be staying up for 36 hours. If anyone saw the last one and tuned into the last one, you would have seen us. It was great entertainment anyway, just divulging into a hysterical giggle or not being able to cope. And we've got to speak to so many more guests.
We've got more.
We've got so much guests. I'm just going to run through, do you mind, very quickly.
Go on.
Tomorrow's guest lineup. We've got Ronnie Herman coming up at midnight. She's in Canada. She was a school teacher. She's fighting this. She's been on the show before. She's been brilliant. Then we've got the lovely Christine Miner. She's from Q-Team Awesome over in America. She's just been a dream and a support, getting the word out about this over there in the States. Then we have got Nick Tenconi coming on from Turning Point UK. We have the wonderful Andy Heesman in the morning. He's fighting the battle over in Ireland. They took over the General Post Office there, I think, earlier in the week.
Couple of days ago.
It was an incredible video, so he's going to be really talking about that. We'll probably have some of that footage. We have Brian Garish coming in as well. He'll be playing first thing in the morning. Then we have Lawrence Fox. We have Clive DeCarl coming on, talking about, kids coming into puberty and what it's doing to their bodies and their health. Who else have we got tomorrow? Then we have Dan Watkins.
Your Dan, yeah.
Your Dan, he's coming in. Then we've got Joe and Matty Ginsberg as well. They're up in North Wales, getting out on the streets, and they are just amazing. They've both been on before, haven't they?
Yeah.
We have the lovely Tanya Joy Gibson. She's watching, she's practicing her English accent at the moment. She's an actress, former actress in Hollywood. She started speaking out. She now does a show called Beauty for Ashes. And she's really screaming about the porn industry and what's going on Hollywood. So that's going to be brilliant to have her in. And who else have we got? We have Dr. Chan Abraham from the Family Alliance.
No, the Heritage Party.
The Heritage Party, who's in with David Curtin, that's right. And then we have the lovely Belinda. And then we'll see where it goes. We've got documentaries, films. We've got the Kinsey paedophile film to play out overnight because it is very, very
that's
harrowing.
gonna
A
be
lot
early
of
hours of the
a
morning.
lot of the movies are going to be going out during the night because, you know, we don't want to, you know, we're doing this to protect our children, so we don't want our children walking past the laptop and hearing some of the things that is being talked about. So that's it. We're going to hand over to DJ Slipmat now, and we will be back
11 o'clock.
11 o'clock-ish with the lovely Dave Summerall, libertytactics.co.uk, publicchildprotectionwales.org. Please donate to our campaign. We are going to be sitting here for 36 hours.